Ladies and gentlemen, this is Capandball, your favorite gun channel in beautiful, bright English language, and today we are traveling to beautiful Switzerland. Ladies and gentlemen, the rifle I have in my hands is the first ever sniper, sharpshooting rifle of the Swiss Federal Army. Follow me. This is kind of a strange rifle because it looks like a civilian target rifle. It has a high recurve butt plate, it is heavy, it has a set trigger system, a very comfortable pistol grip, it has a palm rest, but I think this palm rest is a later addition. No, I know it is a later addition. It has a very precise rear sight, it's a peep sight, there's a hole in it, an aperture that you can use for sharpening your sight picture, but it has a bayonet attachment on the muzzle, which is really not common on sport shooting rifles. Interesting indeed. So before we continue, let me say a few words about what's happening to the gun channels on YouTube. So first of all, most of our videos are demonetized. Some of them keep disappearing. Some of them are age restricted. Our views dropped significantly, which means that we cannot earn the money on YouTube that we need for making this content for you. Therefore, your support on different platforms became very, very important. So ladies and gentlemen, if you can and you wish to support us because you like what I do, then please do it through Patreon. On patreon.com/capandball you can find exclusive content from me time by time. Also, you can watch all the videos ad-free, which is quite good. We are also present on the History of Weapons and War platform, which is an excellent hiding place for gun nuts like us, with thousands of videos about firearms history, military history, from educational channels like Capandball. If you wish to support us on YouTube, then you can be a member of this channel also, which is also a great thing for us. And also please like, share, subscribe, comment, because this will help the channel grow, because the search engines, well, they won't help us grow, that's for sure. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your support. I will call this rifle a model 1842 Stutzer, but let's not forget that these dates in most cases are attached to the guns by later collectors. Officially, this was solely a Stutzer. This is a very close relative to the contemporary heavy target rifles. The rifle itself is a result of a cooperation between two important gun makers of Switzerland. The barrel was made by Sieber in Lausanne, while other parts of the gun were made by Brisland in the city of Morges. They worked close to each other on the banks of the Lake Geneva. According to the Confederate Constitution, each canton was responsible for providing cartridges for its own troops manufactured according to the central regulations. For each sharpshooter of the Federal Army, lead and powder for 320 shots was to be provided, of which the men in the field carried 40 shots. The rest was kept at the Federal Army stocks ready for use. 1 pound of powder was calculated for 80 shots. 1 Schweizer Pfund equaled 500 grams, meaning that the approximate weight of a charge was 6.25 grams or 96.4 grains. Each soldier received 100 caps for 1 pound of powder. So technically, the sharpshooter had 5 caps for 4 shots. The rifle was loaded with an undersized lead round ball wrapped in a lubricated patch. The charge could be loaded from a powder horn or from pre-rolled paper cartridges that held solely the powder charge. And this is the first 50-meter group.
Well, I would love to tell you that it was very hard to develop the load for this rifle, but in fact this is the first ever load that I used. The bullet is 15.9mm round ball. The patch is thick. I don't know how thick, but I will measure it later. The lubrication is normal tallow and beeswax, so it is the most simple bullet loop that you can have, or patch loop that you can get. And look at that. I have a flyer here, but that was me. And I have 5 shots in the size of the 10 ring, or a bit more than the size of the 10 ring. There are 4 shots that are clearly within the size of the 10 ring, which means that this rifle is absolutely capable of international competitions. I love that. I love that when everything is simple and it works.
So this is a sharpshooter's rifle. But who are the sharpshooters anyway? Well, they are not snipers in the modern way, although they possess the same kind of skills that you need for a sniper today. Sharpshooters were rather elite light troops. They were really practiced in shooting accurately and also practiced in fighting the combat in open combat orders. But they were also trained for close combat formations, like they knew how to use the deployed line, the column, the mass, but they focused more on skirmishing and focused more on fighting the war with the rifle. Instead of the muskets, they had rifles, which is much more accurate, probably a bit slower to load, but much more accurate, and they were also allowed to pick their individual targets, individual enemy soldiers, and they were not just firing volleys on the complete front of the enemy close combat formation. So Switzerland is a confederation of cantons with very strong individual rights, but in the 19th century, the first half of the 19th century, it was centralized step by step. In 1832, they elected a head for the Common War Department, and from 1842 they raised an army, that was the federal army, that was the common army of all the cantons, that's main task was guarding the borders. This was the time when they set general rules for equipping the soldiers and training the soldiers, so all the first manuals came out in 1843, for example. Now, Switzerland chose a unique way of building this army. The Confederate Constitution stated that all male citizens are a soldier between the age of 20 and 44. So the Swiss army actually had 3 levels. The first one was the first line army with its reserves. That was around 100,000 force. There was the second line, which was called the Landwehr. They were territorial troops. They were supporting the first line troops. And there was the Landsturm, which was, let's say, the last effort of the country. Altogether, the complete size of the army was around 200,000, 250,000 in the 1840s. The army had artillery, had cavalry, and also infantry. The most important light infantry element of the infantry arm was the sharpshooters, the Scharfschützen. The sharpshooters, they formed 42 independent sharpshooting companies recruited from all around the cantons, the 25 cantons, and in the time of the Sonderbund War in 1847 there were 42 of these companies. So altogether the Federal Army had 4,200 sharpshooters. The Sonderbund War was nothing serious. Of course, every war is serious where somebody dies, but this was not a large-scale war. It was a civil war between 7 Catholic cantons that decided to separate from the Federation because they were not in complete agreement with decentralization. The war lasted only 3 weeks, and on both sides probably not more than a few hundred people died. The 7 separatist cantons formed their alliance in 1845 to protect their interests. The war itself lasted only 3 weeks in November 1847 and resulted in a complete triumph of the Federation. The Civil War strengthened the centralization that led to the birth of the Second Constitution of 1848 that ended the strong independence of the 25 cantons. Switzerland became a true centralized federation. Let's see the equipment of the sharpshooters. According to the regulations of 1842, the following equipment was to be used by the sharpshooters. For the sharpshooters: the roundbow rifle, Stützer, with a bayonet, the hunting sword, the hunting bag with accessories, and the powder horn. The leather goods are black. The color of the uniform was dark green with black buttons. By this time the color of the uniform of the regular infantry was blue in the Swiss army, which means that the green color was a kind of camouflage color. By this time, at the middle of the 19th century, earlier as well, many countries realized that for light infantry duty, for that kind of sharpshooting duty, it is much more advisable to use terrain-colored uniforms. The Stützer, or the sharpshooting rifle, was in most cases not centrally issued to the soldiers, but they brought their own rifles to combat or to the army. There were specifications describing the most basic elements of the rifle, but everything was up to the soldier to decide what kind of specifications he will follow. Well, the rough specifications are in the 1846 military reglement, and we are going to see now whether my rifle meets those specifications or not. So let's make some measurements on the rifle. Okay, so according to the military reglement of 1846, the total length of the rifle should be 1260 millimeters and mine is 1290 millimeters. So there is a little difference here, but only 3 centimeters. Let's check the length of the barrel. So according to the regulation, this should be around 90 centimeters. And mine is, well, up until the bolster, it is exactly 90. Good. The weight of the rifle should be between 5 to 6 kilograms, while mine is 5,600 grams, around 600 grams, which means that we are within the frame. The manual also gave us information about the twist rate of the bore. It says that it has a dreiviertel draal, which means that the rifling twist turns 3/4 of a turn in the total length of the bore. Now we are going to measure this, and how we are going to do it is quite simple. I have a very tight fitting ramrod that is actually turning with the twist of the rifling. I have a flag here, that's a tape, that's in line with the front sight now, and I'm going to measure the distance, how much we need to make a 180 degrees turn. So when the flag is going to point in the direction of the ramrod, it is 180 degrees. We are going to measure that distance, and if we measure that, we are going to double it to 360 degrees, and then we have the draal of the bore, and we are going to check and calculate from that whether we have a dreiviertel or not. Was it understandable? I think yes. Let's see it. Okay, I pull it out, just roughly, so it is not 100% accurate for sure. Now it is in line with the ramrod. Let's measure it. Okay, so this is, let's say 60-61. So the rifling turned 180 degrees, half turn, on 60 centimeters, around 60 centimeters. Let's double this. We arrive to 120 centimeters. That is for 160 degrees, so one complete turn. Now 3/4 of the 120 is exactly 90 centimeters, which means that during the complete bore length, we have a dreiviertel draal. According to the military reglement, the caliber of the bore should be 23 gauges, 23 to the pound, which means that out of 1 pound of pure lead, 23 equal size pure lead round balls could be cast. In case of the Schweizer Army, the weight of the pound was 500 grams. So which means that, let's say, there was a bit of flexibility in the system, by the way, which means that it was 23, but 2 steps down and 2 steps up could be accepted as well. So technically meaning that everything from 21 to 25 gauge was okay for military service. This is somewhere around 59 caliber to 62 caliber, so everything between that is okay for military service. The bore diameter of my rifle is exactly 62. So it seems like I can enlist to be a sharpshooter in the Swiss Federal Army with my rifle, because it's a military rifle. But there are other proofs of this, because there is a sign on the bottom of the stock. It's a number fine in a bugle. This is the number of the independent sharpshooting company. Now, the 5th company was raised in the canton of Thurgau. I also have a silver plate on the left side of the rifle with the letters LC, which technically means that probably later, with some archival research, I will be able to find the exact owner of this rifle, and I will notify you when I have it. Each sharpshooting company consisted of 109 men, including 74 privates, and all the rest were the duties and the officers, NCOs, as usual in companies, infantry companies. They were not signaled with drums like in the case of line infantry, but with horns like in the case of light infantry. These independent sharpshooting companies, they were not integrated into the system of the infantry brigades, but they were directly attached to divisions. Although they possessed the skills of a sniper, they were rather used as allied skirmish troops, as I told you before. During the Sonderbund War, the 5th company was attached to the 4th division, commanded by Oberst Karl Eduard Ziegler. It consisted of troops solely from Thurgau. The 49th Infantry Battalion, the 26th Sharpshooting Company, and the number 5 Sharpshooting Company, commanded by Konrad Hanhard. This company had 103 men. Let's talk about the training of the sharpshooters. In Switzerland, marksmanship is a real national heritage. In the 19th century it was, and it is also today. They have beautiful muzzle-loading shooters, even today, winning tons of medals and world championships. Now, The training of the sharpshooter started very early, at the age of 11 in the cadet system. They learned how to handle the rifle, how to shoot accurately as a boy. Later, when the soldier enrolled to a sharpshooting company, he started his training on cantonal level, meaning that 33 days of basic trainings in the canton, and later he moved to central camps, where on federal level he received another 28 days of training. This training was just a few days longer than in the case of the normal line infantry. The courses were held on squad level, meaning that 8 to 10 soldiers and an instructor. The instructor was their fathers. He trained them, coached them, led them. And the manuals and the instructions focused on not treating these soldiers badly. So harsh words, they were strictly forbidden. They had to be some kind of a friendly environment. There had to be a friendly environment for these soldiers to learn the exact skills that they need to use their rifle as accurate as possible. The sharpshooters training was completely different from the musketry of the 19th century, because the smoothbore musket armed soldiers, they were trained to fire volleys on the enemy, while they had to pick individual targets. They were trained to score a hit with every single ball they fired from the Stutzer. The basic element of the tactics was the rotte, or the pair of soldiers. They were standing behind each other in the deployed line. They lived together and they fought together. The basic tactical formation of the sharpshooter company was the two-man deep deployed line with one step distance between each man. The company was divided into two half companies, called the pelotons, and the two pelotons into two platoons, called Züge. So the first element of their training was the line infantry training, which means that they learned how to fight in the close combat formations like the deployed line, like the column, or like in the mess. But later they focused more on skirmishing. The duty of the skirmishers forming the kette or chain was to attack or defend a defile, a wood, a thicklet, to hold the bank of a river, a barricade or a village, to attack or outflank the enemy fighting in a broken area with open combat formations. Their duty was also to mask the attack of their own troops, to draw the attention of the enemy from the maneuvers of the main force. All these tasks, they required fast movement on the battlefield and outside the battlefield, so the regulation focused much more on using the Laufschritt or running step, which was 150 paces in a minute, than the rather normal step. This was nearly double the speed as the normal line infantry moved. The members of the rotte acted in cooperation. They alternated fire, which means that there was always a rifle that was loaded in the pair, which was very important for self-defense or for protection. When the skirmish line was advancing, then the soldier in the first rank fired a shot and started to reload his gun immediately, while the soldier in the rear rank, he moved forward and moved until the loading procedure was finished. When it was finished, he laid down, kneeled, sat on the ground, lied on the ground or standing, shot his shot and started to reload his rifle immediately, while the soldier from the first rank moved forward, passed him, and moved until the loading procedure was finished again. And then he fired, and it was repeated. The target practice started at 100 paces or 75 meters and lasted until 350 paces on a single human body-sized target. This was in contrary to the musket target shooting sessions of that time, because with the smoothbores they fired on targets with the size of the front of the enemy close combat formation. At 400 paces or 300 meters the target was changed. Okay, the target was not changed, but it was the same human-sized target, but a large canvas screen was put behind it with 8 feet height and 16 feet wide. It was large enough to show the errors that the soldier makes, and he could easily correct them. Based on the instructions of the manual, they opened fire on enemy close combat formations at 600 paces or 450 meters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is double the distance as in the case of the smoothbore musketry, and that's a large distance even today. The manual also described how to deal with sniper duty tasks. In this case, one NCO conducted 3 or 4 soldiers to fire on that single individual target that was important to hit. So there was a cooperation here as well. This is much closer to the sniper type of shooting that we, let's say, think as a modern type of snipership.
And here's a patch that was just fired. I could use it once more, which means that the rifling is in perfect condition.
Let's see what the rifle can do at 50 meter offhand.
and that is, let's say, the simulation of the 50-meter MLAIC Vetterli event, which is the 50-meter offhand percussion rifle event. We usually shoot this in jacket and in shooting boots with shooting glasses, so let's say this is a kind of Borsman Vetterli discipline simulation. But altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4 shots are in the size of a 10 ring. It is nearly in the same place which I shot when I was shooting from the bench. And I have 2 flyers here which are a bit below but are still in the 9 ring, which means that the rifle is perfect with this load for Vetterli. The recoil is low because the rifle is heavy, and the patch round ball, even if it's 24 grams of weight, which is quite a lot compared to a target rifle, it is still, the rifle's weight is absorbing the recoil, so it is very, very mild, very comfortable to shoot. Well, this is an excellent rifle. This is an excellent rifle.
After the Sonderbund War, one of the very first tasks of the Federal War Department was to harmonize the weaponry and equipment of the army. The model 1851 Federal Rifle, Sharpshooter, or Eigenessischer Stützer, was one of the very first results of this process. If you are interested in the history and the cartridges of the Sharpshooter, please check my video about it. The link is in the description. The sharpshooters were just as general conscripts as the members of the line infantry, but they focused more on target shooting while they were at home as well. Because the federal government encouraged the cantons to organize yearly large shooting matches where they could practice marksmanship. And even today in Switzerland, these shooting competitions are very, very popular. So that's a nice piece of history, ladies and gentlemen, indeed. I was just hoping to buy a military rifle when I bought this gun, but now I know that it is a military rifle and the first sharpshooter rifle of the Federal Swiss Army, which makes it a very interesting and important rifle of firearms history. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the story. If you like what I do, subscribe, share, comment, like, because this will help us grow. If you wish and you can support us, then please do it through Patreon. Patreon.com/capandball is our page. Here you will find exclusive content from me time by time. We are also present on the History of Weapons and War platform. That's also a beautiful place for gun history nuts like us. So ladies and gentlemen, up until next time, stay cool and keep your powder dry.